We've been joined in studio by Seanie Morris. Good morning to you, Seanie.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
You've handed me a pair of goggles, ones you've got as well, which have come from the Irish Federation of the Astronomy Societies.
Yes.
And this is for direct solar viewing.
That's correct. These are official IFAS solar eclipse viewers. Now, you can use these to look at the sun in general, so they are completely safe. They resemble the old-fashioned 1950s 3D glasses you used to get in the cinema.
They do. They feel
Yeah. But that material that's blocking out the light, it's a special polymer plastic. It'll let through about 99.5% of the sun's light, block out all the heat, so it can be used even as a filter with a telescope if used correctly. Now, even just to let listeners know, these are available free on the IFAS website. If they check out irisgastronomy.org, all it'll cost them is a self-addressed envelope, stamped-addressed envelope. And if they check that out, they may be able to get one of these in time for Friday's eclipse, which is why I'm here today.
Well, there you go. I suppose this reminds me of late 99 when this happened, the one that I can remember, the solar eclipse. A lot of people were very concerned about their eyes and what might happen to it if you look directly into it. Because it is, I suppose, amplified when the eclipse actually happens. The sun is even stronger than before.
That's true. It's not even necessarily the fact that it's amplified. It's because people take notice of it. As the sun is being blocked out during a solar eclipse by the moon, they're able to actually look at the sun and take note of its shape and things like that. Whereas, on a normal sunny day where you try to look at the sun, your eyes by reflex will try and close to protect themselves. But there's not an actual amplification of the light, but it's because people now are able to take notice of it, that they'll think of using binoculars or telescopes with it and to view it and enjoy it.
And of course, they're more likely to stare for prolonged periods than they would normally.
That's right. And it is important that if anyone has a binoculars or telescope, magnifying glass, even an eyepiece or a little telescope from a kid's astronomy set, do not use it to look at the sun directly with your eyes, because instantly you will be blinded and it'll hurt as well. There are methods of using those instruments for projection, or with proper filters to put them at the very front before any magnification takes place, to look through the magnifying of the sun's image.
But for those of us who don't have the right equipment, be careful.
It is absolutely imperative to be careful. Now, you could use a few little things around the house to actually enjoy the crescent shape of the sun as the eclipse will be taking place. If you take a colander, those little strainers, there's circular holes through it. If you hold that up and project its light onto the ground, you will see tiny little crescent suns projecting onto the ground through those little projection holes. The same effect will be seen through the branches of the trees as well. They become like tiny little projection holes.
For those who aren't familiar with what's going to happen, what exactly is going to happen at around 8:30 on Friday?
From around about 8:20 on Friday morning, depending where you are in Ireland, the moon will make first contact with the edge of the sun. The moon is going to come between Earth and the sun in a very rare event that is the total solar eclipse. Now, totality will happen closer to the Faroe Islands than it will for Ireland, but Ireland will get between 89 and 91% coverage. Maximum coverage will happen at 9:26 a.m. For us here in the Midlands, that'll offer nearly 91% coverage. And we will see a noticeable drop in brightness and heat if it's a nice sunny morning. And it'll then wane across from the sun's surface. The moon will pass off again and everything will be normal again around about 10:15.
Okay, and if you look at it, this is actually quite spectacular as well.
It is spectacular. It's a very rare event as well. Scientists and astronomers have tried to simulate this with all the other planets in the solar system. And the only other one that I know of that has come close to having an event like this is a tiny moon of Jupiter called Amalthea. And it is able to very rarely produce what it would be as a solar eclipse as seen from the Jovian surface, from the surface of Jupiter. But what makes this very questionable as to whether, is this a thing of evolution or is it intelligent design, is when you take in the maths. For a solar eclipse to happen, with everything that is so perfect, the Sun-Earth distance is 400 times the Earth-Moon distance. So and the moon is just that perfect size when it comes into this kind of coincidental correlation that it'll perfectly blot out the sun at a total solar eclipse. Now, there are other ones too, like annular, whereas the moon is a little further away from the Earth when it blocks out the sun. So you got that ring of fire going around the edge of the moon. But we've got a total one, but for Ireland, it'll be a partial total solar eclipse.
Yeah, I suppose the moon is the one that's really spectacular, because sometimes you get planets that make a partial eclipse and so on as well, and they're rare too, but they're not quite as spectacular, in my opinion at least, as when the moon gets in front.
That's true. Yeah, you're things like conjunctions and that when you're talking about these alignments and that. Yeah, what we've got here now is a very special event. For Ireland, it won't happen again until August 12th, 2026. That's when we'll get about 91% coverage again, much like what's going to happen this Friday and happened in August 99. And but for Ireland, I think it's it's in the 22nd century, the next time Ireland will actually experience a total solar eclipse on Irish soil. So this will be, for many people, it could be the last one for a while.
What's your plan? Because you're a dedicated stargazer.
I am. Excuse me. In the Midlands Astronomy Club, we will have a free event on top of Athlone Castle on Friday morning. We'll be there from around 8 a.m. to get our telescopes set up. Members of the public can come along. We'll have these eclipse viewers free to give out. And we'll be there all morning enjoying it. Hopefully, the weather forecast, I don't know what Cahill's predictions will be, but...
he says it's going to be clear.
Really? Currently at Met.ie it's saying possibly drizzle on the morning, but hopefully that won't be for Athlone anyway. There are many clubs around the country via the Irish Federation of Astronomical Societies network that will also be carrying out different events throughout. So if people are listening around the country, not necessarily in the Midlands, they're listening in online or via the Midlands 103 app, they could check out irishastronomy.org or check out the Irish Astronomy Facebook page, simply facebook.com/Irish Astronomy for a list of locations where there will be eclipse watches.
Do you know what, Shawnee? I'm not sure who to trust now at this stage, because the papers are saying 12 degrees tomorrow, really sunny. Call saying 7 to 8 degrees, leave your T-shirt at home. You're saying maybe not as nice on Friday as he's predicting.
Well, look, it's 4 days away.
Out, though, yeah.
Yes, it is 4 days away. Something miraculous might happen and we'll get a fantastic view, because it'll be a shame to have to wait till 2026 to see this kind of thing again.
Yeah, I suppose people wondering as well about, say, children who are going to watch this. Are they particularly at risk in terms of looking at the sun? I mean,
yes.
Get the glasses is part of the idea.
Now, kids are in school this morning. Most kids are in school this morning. So parents, the onus will be on you to make sure that kids know, if they've got a little bedroom telescope or binoculars, to know how to use them safely. There is a guide that can be downloaded for free from the irishastronomy.org website that shows you how to use different things to safely view the sun. I do strongly recommend, I actually penned it myself with diagrams and all. I strongly recommend to take that, have a quick look and see what you could use with what you've got at home to safely look at the eclipse.
My final question for you this morning then.
Yes.
If you're going to be looking at Friday, right, I know the peak is going to be around 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be there at exactly 9:30, or how long is the effect going to last?
No, you don't. Well, the effect, because we're only having partial totality itself is only about 3.5 minutes on the line of totality. For Ireland, that experience is just a time marker to say at 9:26 a.m. That's when the maximum will be for us. But that effect will be felt for about 25-30 minutes.
Right. There's a fairly wide window there.
There is, yeah. 10-15 minutes either side of the maximum mark is when we will still see that effect.
And will the effect change much over that time if you stay out and watch it for a long period?
Yeah, you will notice a dip in brightness. If it is a warm morning, you will also notice a dip in the heat. It's not as pronounced as a total solar eclipse. I've benefited from experiencing that once in 2006.
What was it like?
Fantastic, I tell you. 147 of us from around Ireland travelled to Turkey to view it. And we saw the shadow coming from across the ocean. And when we experienced totality, we all had to put our T-shirts back on. Yeah. The temperature dropped that much. Flowers began to close up. Birds went quiet. And when you're in totality, you're in this cylinder of darkness. And all around you on the horizon, you're looking at where the sunlight is still visible. But then across from the ocean is the trailing edge of the eclipse, and then brightness just comes to you on such a big flash. It's an amazing sight to behold in person. There are friends of mine who have travelled up to the Faroe Islands where there are charter flights. You've booked a seat for 600 or 700 euros, 1,000 euros, and will actually travel along totality and give you maybe up to 10-12 minutes extended totality as the jet is chasing the shadow, so to speak. That is where the best view will be. Northern Scotland as well, closer again, because they'll get about 93%. The Hebrides closer again. I think they get nearly 94 or 95%. It's a win-win situation the further north you go.
They seem to be blessed by these phenomena because you get the Northern Lights and the Aurora Borealis and all that. That's right. The woods too.
The Northern Lights. For a lot of people around the Arctic Circle, the North Magnetic Pole, the Northern Lights are actually a nuisance because they happen so often that astronomers can't actually get a clear sky sometimes with these glowing oranges, blues and greens and purples. For us down here, it is a rare event, but it does sometimes come this far south. you do got to keep an eye north with a clear horizon on a good night. And there are sources on the net that can tell you just how active the magnetic activity would be with a chance of an aurora too.
And one of the great things these days, I suppose, because everyone has cameras and smartphones that they carry around. So I remember it happened in Donegal last year, and people were able to get quite good snaps very quickly.
That's right.
It was unexpected.
Yep. There's friends of ours in different clubs in Mayo, Sligo, Donegal, and even Antrim have been able to spot it many, many times. And it could be a rare event for us down here because of our geographical location. Given that, we've got things in the way of the horizon, but those who are on the north and western coasts have that advantage when you're looking down at sea level, at the horizontal level. You would see that faint, bluey, greeny, purple glow that someone 1,000 miles or 500 miles further north will have directly overhead. Auroral glow that could be a fantastic sight to see.
And those people in the west and the north have an advantage of the lack of light pollution as well. If you're on the east coast,
that is a distinct advantage, yeah. Now, I've seen some great aurora here. Tullamore is not necessarily like a deadpan of non-auroral activity. There's been some fantastic views. In 2004, in October and November that year, 3 weeks apart, we had the sky completely covered from 2 consecutive aurora. And there was a massive display in 1992 that the entire sky was blotted out with red. And that same aurora actually caused some loss of electrical grids in the eastern seaboard of Canada.
Seanie, question coming in from one of our texters. Will it affect the tides tomorrow then with the position the moon is in?
The moon does affect the tides, and you've got, spring, low, neap, high, and so on like that, as the moon does its circuit around Earth. I actually don't know what the effect will be precisely at maximum tomorrow, but that is actually a very good question. Yeah, it's one I would never have considered answering, actually.
Yeah, might have to do a Google on that. Yeah. A very clever listener who's just texted. Seanie, thanks a lot for coming in. Hopefully,
actually, sorry, just to answer that. Yeah. In theory, yes, it actually will offer an extra high tide because you got the moon and the sun's gravity pulling at the same side of the Earth at the same time.
So it's an extra drag.
So technically, there'd be an extra drag at that time.
Might be good news if you're a surfer then.
Yes, if you they need the added bonus of extra high waves and the winds to create them too.
Yeah.
But yes, your tidal forces will be quite high in the northern hemisphere tomorrow. On Friday.
They might get the perfect storm. Make yourself go over to somewhere like Clare, go to Lahinch.
Hold on. We don't want a storm. We want to see the eclipse. Yeah. We want the clear skies.
Fine, let it be clear and let the wind pick up later.
Surfers can wait.
Seanie Morris, thanks a million for coming in.
Thank you, Will.
Seanie giving us his expert opinion ahead of Friday's eclipse there as well.